They said no child could survive what happened that night. But in 1862 Alabama, one boy refused to die. The moon hung low over the red dirt fields. Quiet. Too quiet for a night that would change history. A farmhouse stood at the edge of the woods, wooden walls cracked, windows shaking in the cold wind. Inside, a scream cut through the dark. Not a scream of fear, a scream of something the doctors would later call impossible. His name was Eli Mercer, 10 years old, small, fragile, born in the middle of a war-torn South where death was cheap and life was borrowed time. But Eli wasn't like the other boys. His mother always said the storms listened to him. His father swore he'd seen Eli walk away from injuries that should have laid him in a grave. People whispered, people stared, but nobody understood the truth. Not yet. That night, the lanterns flickered as his mother held him close. His body was burning, not with fever, but with something that felt alive. Something moving under his skin, something no normal child should carry. The family doctor, Dr. Harlan Pierce, rushed in with trembling hands. One look at the boy, and the color drained from his face. He had seen gunshot wounds, disease, men torn apart by the Civil War, but he had never seen this. Eli's heartbeat was unpredictable, stopping, starting, fading, then roaring back stronger. He said science can't explain this. Nothing can. The air grew colder. Eli's breaths grew shorter. And just when everyone thought the boy was slipping away, he opened his eyes. Not weak, not fading, but bright, focused, almost unnatural. His mother gasped. His father stepped back. Even the doctor froze. Because Eli didn't look alive. He didn't look dead either. He looked like something caught between both worlds, holding on with a strength no human body should possess. And in that eerie silence, as the wind rattled the windows like skeletal fingers, Eli whispered his first words in hours. "They're coming for me." Everyone thought Eli was imagining things, but the truth was waiting right outside the door. The farmhouse felt colder than the night itself, as if the walls were breathing, listening, waiting for something none of them could see. Eli's father, Thomas Mercer, grabbed his shotgun, hands shaking, eyes locked on the door. He wasn't a man who scared easily. War shapes men into stone, but tonight, even stone could crack. Dr. Pierce leaned closer to Eli. "Who's coming for you, son?" The boy didn't blink, didn't tremble, didn't even seem afraid. "The men in the smoke. They watch me when I sleep." A chill spread through the room. The doctor tried to tell himself it was fever delirium, except Eli had no fever. His body was cold, too cold for a living child. Outside the wind howled, branches scraped across the windows like nails. But then, the sound stopped. All of them. The insects, the wind, even the distant rumble of soldiers marching miles away. Silence crushed the house like an invisible weight. Eli slowly sat up. Every bone in his body should have been weak, but he rose as if something stronger was lifting him. His mother backed away, whispering prayers under her breath. Dr. Pierce steadied himself, fighting panic. He checked Eli's pulse. Nothing. Not a beat. Not a flutter. Just silence. Yet Eli was awake, breathing, watching the door. How is this possible?" the doctor muttered. But Eli didn't answer. His eyes fixed on the wooden door as the lantern light dimmed. A shadow moved beneath the crack, slow, deliberate, like footsteps without a body. Thomas gripped his shotgun tighter. "Who's there?" No reply. Then the boy spoke again. "They tried to take me once." His voice was calm, too calm. "But they can't kill me. They don't understand why. That's why they're coming back." A sudden knock slammed against the door. One strike, heavy, deep, not human. Eli didn't flinch. His parents froze. Dr. Pierce felt his heartbeat racing in his throat. The knock came again, louder, angrier, and Eli just whispered, "They found me." What next? Like, share, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. The door wasn't supposed to open, but it did, all by itself. Thomas Mercer stepped back, knuckles white around the shotgun. His breath turned shaky, uneven. His wife clutched her apron, tears gathering in her eyes. Dr. Pierce whispered, "Stay behind me." But even he didn't believe the words. The third knock never came. Instead, the latch slid, metal scraped, slow, scratching like fingers dragging across iron. No one touched it, no one moved. But the door swung inward anyway. A cold fog crept through the gap. Not natural fog. It rolled across the floor in a thin white sheet, curling around Eli's feet like it knew him. Eli didn't look away, didn't blink. He just stared into the darkness as if he had been waiting for this moment his entire life. A tall figure stood on the porch, not fully visible, just a silhouette. Long, still, wrong. Thomas raised his gun. "Don't come any closer." The figure didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't even shift in the lantern light. But the fog thickened. Eli finally spoke. "You can't stop them, Papa." His father shot him a terrified glance. "What do you mean, them?" Eli pointed toward the open doorway. His hand didn't shake. His voice was steady. "There's more than one." Dr. Pierce swallowed hard, leaning toward the light. He caught a glimpse, not a face, not eyes, but the outline of several tall shapes drifting at the edge of the yard. Silent, watching, like hunters trying not to scare their prey. Thomas fired a shot into the dark. The explosion shook the house. Smoke filled the room. His wife screamed, but the figures didn't run, didn't fall, didn't even react. They just stood there, as if the bullet had never existed. Dr. Pierce choked out, "What are they?" Eli turned toward him. "They're the ones who tried to end me when I was born." Thomas stared at his son. "What do they want with you?" Eli's voice dropped to a whisper colder than the fog itself. "They want to know why I survived." The lantern flickered. The fog climbed the walls, and outside, the silhouettes began moving closer, step by step by step. If you want next, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. The shadows didn't walk like men. They moved like something that had never been alive at all. Thomas slammed the door shut. The house shook. The hinges screamed. But the cold still seeped through the cracks like a living thing searching for a way in. Eli's mother dropped to her knees, praying, begging, her voice trembling with every word. Dr. Pierce grabbed a chair and wedged it under the handle. His hands shook so badly he almost missed the slot. "Thomas, this isn't natural. Nothing about this is natural." Before he finished, another knock hit the door. Slow, heavy, measured. Then another, from the side of the house. Then another, from the back. until the entire farmhouse echoed with pounding, a hollow, bone-deep rhythm like giants knocking from every wall. Eli sat perfectly still, watching the lantern burn lower, watching shadows stretch across the wooden floor toward him. Thomas pressed his back against the door, shotgun ready. "Why are they after you, boy?" Eli's eyes glimmered in the dim light. "When I was born, the midwife said I didn't breathe." He wasn't looking at his father. He was remembering. "They wrapped me in cloth, said I was gone." His mother sobbed into her hands. Thomas froze, staring at her. She couldn't even look at him. Eli continued, "But before they buried me, I woke up." A loud crack split through the back window. Glass rained onto the floor. A long arm, too thin, too pale, slid inside for a brief second before vanishing into the fog. Dr. Pierce stumbled back, heart pounding. What is that?" Eli answered without emotion. "They came that night too." The pounding on the walls grew louder, more aggressive, more impatient. Thomas yelled, "Why didn't you tell us?" Eli turned his head slowly toward him. "Because I didn't know they'd follow me this far. Not after all these years. Not after the war started. Not after the world became so full of death they could hide in it." A gust of freezing wind blew out the lantern. The room plunged into black. Nothing but breathing. Nothing but fear. And then a whisper filled the darkness. Not from Eli. Not from anyone in the room. A whisper from inside the house. "He belongs to us." The voice came from inside the house, but no one had opened a door. Darkness swallowed the room, pure, heavy, suffocating. Eli's mother screamed his name, reaching blindly for him. Her hands found only cold air, too cold, a chill that didn't belong to Alabama, or to anything human. Thomas fired into the dark. The muzzle flash lit the room for a fraction of a second, long enough to see it, a figure standing in the corner, tall, bent, like a shadow that forgot how to be a shadow. When the light vanished, so did the figure. Dr. Pierce grabbed Eli's shoulder and recoiled. The boy's skin felt like winter, ice on bone, not warm, not alive. "Eli, listen to me," he whispered. "Tell us what they are." The boy's voice floated through the dark, steady, calm, unnatural. "They were there before I was born." Something dragged across the wooden floor, slow, scraping, like iron chains or claws. Eli continued, "My mother heard voices in the birth room, whispers, cold hands." His mother sobbed into the darkness. "I thought it was the pain. I thought I imagined it." Another whisper slithered across the room, close, right behind Thomas's ear. "Give him to us." Thomas swung the gun wildly, firing again. Flash, light, one horrifying glimpse. A pale face inches from Eli, eyes hollow, jaw unhinged, like something trying to remember how to look human. Then darkness again. Dr. Pierce grabbed the fallen lantern, searching for the flint. His fingers trembled as he struck it. Once, twice, sparks flying uselessly. Eli's breathing became strange, deep, rhythmic. Not like a boy's breath, but like something echoing inside him, something not his own. Thomas finally shouted, "What do they want with you? What are you?" Eli lifted his head toward the sound of his father's voice. "They say, I'm the mistake." The scraping sound grew louder, closer, surrounding them from all sides. Dr. Pierce finally got the lantern to flicker, a weak glow blooming in the center of the room. Shadows leapt back, but not all of them. One remained, tall, long-limbed, standing directly behind Eli, with a hand resting on his shoulder. Eli didn't move, didn't scream, didn't even seem surprised. He just whispered, "They were the ones meant to take me, but I lived, and now they want to know how." The lantern flame wavered violently. The shadow leaned closer. Its voice rattled the wood, the air, and their bones. "The boy you saved was never yours." The shadow didn't speak in words. It spoke in cold, creeping fear. The room fell silent. Not quiet, silent. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum in the dark. Thomas shook Eli gently. "Son, tell me what's happening." Eli didn't answer. He just stared at the corner where the shadow had been. The air seemed to bend toward it, like the room itself was leaning into its presence. Dr. Pierce fumbled with the lantern, casting light across the walls. Nothing. No shadow, no figure. Then a whisper, soft, almost a sigh. "He cannot die, but he cannot hide." Eli's lips moved without sound, his eyes glazed, hands trembling. Then he spoke. "They tried before, the night I was born. They left me for dead, but I wasn't ready to go, and they've never forgotten." Outside, the wind picked up. Branches thrashed against the windows. A scream of metal echoed from the barn. Something dragged itself across the floorboards above them. Heavy, intentional. Thomas grabbed his shotgun. Dr. Pierce pulled Eli toward the fireplace. His mother clung to her son as though she could keep the darkness at bay. And then Eli laughed. Soft, strange, chilling. A sound that didn't belong to a 10-year-old boy. "What? What are you doing?" Thomas yelled. "They are testing me," Eli whispered. "They want to see if I'm strong enough to survive everything they throw at me." A crack sounded at the front door, then another. The wood groaned, then splintered. Something was trying to get in, something that could bend walls and floors without effort. Dr. Pierce's hand shook as he tried to barricade the door. Thomas swung the shotgun in panic. Eli didn't move, didn't flinch. He just stood in the middle of the room, watching the shadows in the corners writhe. And then he spoke again, his voice calm, commanding. "They will never take me. Not again. Science cannot kill me, nor can they. I am not meant to die tonight, or ever." A gust of icy wind burst through the broken door. The lantern blew out, total darkness, and in that darkness, the whisper returned. "We will wait, and we will not forget." If you want to see next and the terrifying night continue, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. The night had teeth, and they were closing in. The darkness in the farmhouse wasn't empty. It moved, crawled along the floorboards, licked the walls, wrapped around the furniture like living smoke. Eli sat cross-legged in the center of the room, eyes closed, hands resting on his knees. Calm, unshakable. Thomas whispered, "Son, what are you doing?" Eli opened his eyes slowly, waiting. Not for them, not for the shadows, but for the moment they would make a mistake. Another scream cut from the barn, metal scraping wood. Then silence. The family huddled together. Dr. Pierce pressed his back against the wall, staring at the boy with disbelief. How can he be like this? He should be dead. We should have lost him already. Eli didn't answer. Instead, he rose, every step silent, every movement deliberate. He walked toward the corner where the last shadow had hovered. Thomas raised the shotgun. "Stay back!" But Eli's gaze didn't waver. The shadow coiled around the corner, thin and tall, like a nightmare made of smoke. Eli reached out, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with certainty. The shadow recoiled, hissing like a cornered animal. Then Eli touched it. A scream, piercing, not human. The shadow twisted violently, then evaporated, like smoke in sunlight. The room went still. The wind outside stopped. Even the house seemed to exhale. Thomas stumbled forward. You did it?" Eli didn't answer. He turned toward his father, eyes glowing faintly in the remaining lantern light. He said, "They are not gone. They will never be gone. But now they know I am stronger than fear, stronger than death." Dr. Pierce sank to the floor, shaking. What happens now?" Eli looked at them all. A small, fragile boy in body, but something ancient and impossible in spirit. He said, "Now? We wait, and we survive, because science could not kill me, and neither can they." The wind picked up again, carrying whispers from the woods, soft, threatening, patient. Eli smiled faintly, almost cruelly. "They'll return, and I will still be here." To see next, and the night take its final terrifying turns. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. The night wasn't over. It was just beginning. The farmhouse sat in silence, but the air buzzed with unseen life. Shadows danced along the walls. Branches scratched at the windows. Every sound became a warning. Eli walked slowly to the fireplace, his small hands brushing against the cold stone. His eyes flicked to the corners, tracking movements too subtle for the others to see. Thomas whispered, "Son, it's just the wind." Eli shook his head. "No, Papa, it's them. They've been watching since I drew my first breath." A gust slammed the front door open. Cold air filled the room. Lanterns rattled on their hooks. The temperature dropped sharply, ice forming on the floorboards. Dr. Pierce stumbled back. "This is impossible." Eli didn't flinch. He stepped toward the doorway, his small figure illuminated by the flickering light of the fire. "You cannot hide from darkness, from what wants you," he said calmly. A scraping sound came from the ceiling, something heavy, moving slowly across the beams. The family froze, heartbeats thundering. Thomas raised the shotgun, firing into the shadows. The echo was deafening. A wail answered him, long, piercing, inhuman. Eli closed his eyes, hands raised slightly. He breathed in and out. The shadows reacted, retreated, but only for a moment. A voice hissed from behind them, "He belongs to us." Eli turned, eyes blazing. "Not tonight. Not ever." He stepped forward. The shadows recoiled again. The scraping stopped. The wind paused. Then a scream erupted from the woods outside, a sound like metal tearing flesh, and the ground trembled. Thomas grabbed Eli. "Run!" But Eli shook his head. "No, I face them. Always." Dr. Pierce swallowed, heart pounding. I can't. I don't understand." Eli whispered to him, almost kindly. "Science has tried, men have tried, war has tried, and still I live." Another gust of wind slammed the door shut behind him. The shadows retreated to the edges of the room. Eli stood alone in the center, a boy, but no longer just a boy. something ancient, unbroken, impossible, alive in the heart of a child. The whispers were louder now, closer, and they carried a promise they would not forget. Eli stood in the center of the farmhouse, small, fragile, human in appearance, but something inside him hummed with impossible strength. Thomas and his wife huddled in a corner. Dr. Pierce clutched a chair like a shield, sweat dripping from his brow. "I don't understand," he muttered. How is this possible?" Eli's eyes scanned the shadows creeping along the walls. "They cannot kill me," he said. "Science, war, sickness, death itself has tried and failed." Outside, the wind carried a chorus of ghostly voices, soft, cold, and patient. "They wait," Eli whispered, "but tonight they are learning patience is not enough." A branch cracked outside, then another, then something heavier, footsteps, not human, dragging, deliberate. Thomas raised the shotgun again. Eli didn't move. He only watched. "They think fear will control me," Eli said softly. "They think they can break me." Another shadow entered the room, this one taller, darker, stretching along the floor like spilled ink. It hovered near Eli, silent, watching. Eli smiled faintly. "Not tonight, and not ever." He extended a hand. The shadow writhed, twisted, hissing in tones that no human mouth could make. Then it vanished. The room shook. A cold gust swept through, extinguishing the remaining lanterns. The house groaned. The wind screamed like it carried 1,000 souls. And Eli remained calm, unshaken, alive. Impossible. A boy no one could touch. Dr. Pierce swallowed hard. You survived it all!" Eli turned toward them, eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. "I was never meant to die, and those who tried will never forget that lesson." Outside, the whispers continued, waiting, silent, eternal. Eli's mother clutched her son, finally realizing this boy, this impossible child, was more than human. Something old, something unbroken, something no science could ever kill. And in the distance, the wind carried a promise. They will return, but he will always endure. The impossible survival story ends tonight, but the truth is darker than anyone imagined. The first light of dawn seeped through the cracks in the walls, pale, weak, trying to push back the shadows that refused to leave. Eli stood in the center of the farmhouse, eyes sharp, alert, glowing faintly in the dim morning light. Every breath he took was calm, measured, impossible. Thomas and his wife clung to each other, exhausted. Dr. Pierce sank to the floor, shaking. "Eli, how?" The boy didn't answer. He only looked at the broken windows, the splintered doors, the marks the shadows had left behind. "They tried everything," he said softly. "War, science, men who thought they could end me, but nothing can touch me that's meant to." Outside, the wind stilled. For a moment, silence reigned. Then a whisper, soft, hissing, patient. "They will wait," he said. "They always wait, but I endure." He turned to face his parents, small hands resting on their shoulders, the weight of a lifetime of impossible survival in his gaze. Thomas choked back tears. I thought we would lose you." Eli's lips curved faintly. I was never meant to be lost. Dr. Pierce stood slowly, trembling. There is no explanation, he whispered. No science, no medicine. Nothing explains this. Eli walked toward the door, paused, and looked back. The world changes, but some things are eternal. Death cannot claim me, fear cannot break me, and the shadows, the ones who tried, they will always remember who survived. The family followed him outside. The sun rose higher, burning away the mist and fog. The wind carried the echoes of whispers retreating into the trees. But for the first time in the long night, Eli Mercer was free. Not just the boy, not just a survivor. Something older, something stronger. The impossible. And as the world awoke, the story of the boy science couldn't kill was only beginning to be told. If you survived this story, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. The impossible will live on in your mind.